All right, let's get started. I'm probably going to be streaming for about an hour and a half today, not the full 2 hours. We'll see where we get. So this jam entry is already a little bit overdue. What I have left to do is ship part interaction, trigger the win condition. I thought I wrote these in here. I have my 3 parts. So the parts are going to be like a cockpit, life support, and some sort of booster. Instructions, I have an instructions scene already. It's pretty bare. Static map layout. Static because eventually I want this to be procedurally generated. I've moved a lot over to the full version category here. My music's a little loud. So I've moved a lot to the full version category. After I wrapped up this game jam entry, I'm not sure if I'm gonna try and build all of this in PICO-8. I think I want to. Or the other option is to explore a Godot version of this game and expand on it a little bit. I'll probably do both, honestly. Maybe I'll add a little bit more and see when I start hitting the PICO-8 limits, and then I might do version 2 or a full version of it in Godot. So right now, I'll run through the current state of things. So I'm changing the initial scene that I'm loading here. Load the main scene, music starts, X to start, you get this instructions screen. I think I'm going to add a little bit more to this or make a couple of pages if I can, but this at least covers the basic instructions to start. And then you're into the game. And this is still just a testing area. I haven't had time to design the real level. But I redesigned the little supply crates so that they match the little logo that's on the side of the ship that we put together last week. I'm going to change that collection animation. Pause this other music. I don't know if this music's great now. When I was testing tracks earlier, I liked it. It felt like kind of a somber, distraught song to play over someone who's stranded on a moon trying to leave. But now that I'm hearing it with the game, I don't know if I like it. Turn that off for now. So I'll have to come back to the music. Hey, Antidote. Thanks. Yeah, I'm happy with how it's starting to look. I think I've been spending a little too much time on aesthetics instead of actually making the game. Still have like a little debug button so I can spawn a bunch of bots. Okay. So, disregarding this list. Hey, Worksy. This was for a jam for the Eggplant podcast. They do a 1 month jam every other month, roughly. And it's very lax rules. The jam actually ended a couple of days ago, but I'm trying to take a few more days because I don't actually have a complete game. I kind of have a toy. You can run around and throw little bots at things, but it's not really a game yet. There's not a loop. And I'm not going to be able to build everything that I wanted to get into it, but I think just to wrap up this jam version, I need to get the level layout done. I need to be able to collect the 3 ship parts and then have a little scene that essentially says you won. So it'll be real light on the gameplay. It'll just be sort of a little exploration game that I hope will still only take about 10 minutes to play through. Thanks for looking up the stream, Antidote. I actually stream on YouTube also, so those streams should be live. They're not just archived on YouTube. Okay, I think I want to work on this part, the ship parts. Ship parts and ship interaction. Gotcha. I need to change that again. So while I'm testing, it's easier to just load right into the game. Now what I need to do is I have, close a lot of this, I have a class for supply. And supply is what these little box looking things are. And so supply you can carry. You can throw a handful of bots at it and throw a handful of bots at it and it'll carry them. That'll spawn more bots. So the goal is going to be to design a level to where I'm sort of encouraging the player to go through simpler paths, start getting supplies, build up their collection of bots, and eventually be able to get through obstacles that are similar to these rocks. Maybe have a long series of rocks that'd be tedious with a small number of bots. I've thought about making some larger obstacles too, so that's another thing that I'll have to create a series of classes for. So right now we have supply that is carryable, and I want to make a carryable entity. I'm just separating parent classes from instances here, just so that I know the order to include them in. And then supply is going to inherit from carryable. That should still work. So nothing changes there. Now I need to pull out anything that is specific to carryable. Actually, that doesn't even need to be there now. I think I want all the same states. The draw is going to be different on each carryable. So supply will still have a unique draw. And the other thing that needs to pull from this is part. So part is going to be a carryable now. And in my game, I have this mapping, these object tiles. I have tile IDs that map to classes, and then for each of those tiles, it will instantiate an object that matches. So the way that works is in something like this, I have these small representations of the buildings in single sprites, and it will find that one tile representation and then spawn the actual building entity in that space. That way I don't need to draw out the entire buildings. I can just, I can click and move a building around, spawn more of them. But right now I want to mess with this part. So I want to be able to throw bots onto this ship part. I just remove the thing that I need to get more bots. So I should be able to throw a whole bunch of bots on this part and have it carry it up to the ship. That's the goal. So we need everything that's carryable to be identified by something. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to go with something really benign. Can carry. So instead of any sort of inheritance checking, which would rely on me changing my class constructor logic, having a series of ancestors, and getting deep into the object-oriented programming part of Lua, I'm just going to add a Boolean here. So if I target something that has can carry, then it'll be a carryable. And that will be important in bot targeting. So bot targeting. Have parts there. So if the class is a part, I mean, I really want to rework this, but I don't have time if I'm going to try and get this done before too long post jam deadline. So we'll just stick with this. So this is checking for each entity and all of the entities that I have rendered. If the entity is one of these classes, supply, obstacle, enemy, or part, and the potential entity has a max bots of 0, or the current number of bots that are associated with it is less than its max bots, and the entity is colliding with the bot's target radius, then we check the distance. Let's see, new target distance. Yeah, so then we're recording how close the target is. So we get all valid targets and we get the closest valid target. Hey everybody, hey Tudo. So you picked up PICO-8 after watching the video, or after watching the live stream. That's great. I love PICO-8. I haven't gotten into Picotron just yet. That'll probably be future exploration. I'm having fun making this game, so I think I want to see how far I can go with this one. Hey Broquaint, how's it going? Thanks for stopping in. So my target detection looks at all entities that are of the right class, that are in range, gets the closest entity, and then it will try and carry if the target, yeah, so right here we're checking if it's supply. But instead, if we check new target.class.can carry, then we will attack it. Oh, and I'm not gonna have this enemy class right now. Let's get rid of that. Enemy is an extra class there. That still works. Okay. Tudo asked, do you have a GitHub repo where you can share some of the helper scripts you use in most of your games, collision, tile management, etc.? Yeah, I'm not explicitly sharing them as a collection, but you go to github.com/Kevin Thompson, and check repositories. I actually need to pin this one. Is that right? Yeah. So now Moonbreak P8 is at the top. And so I've been pushing to this repo as I've been making changes. So there's that. There's the, yeah, the ones from the PICO-8 object-oriented programming video are in that repo. That is a good idea, though. I do need to set up a specific repo for all of the little helpers. For the most part, though, I end up just pulling from my past carts, but it would be nice to put those all in one place. Yeah, my contribution pattern is probably lighter than it used to be. I used to be an individual contributor on a software team, and now I'm more of a manager. So it's only lighting up where I'm actually doing my own personal work now. Where was I? Code. So if target can carry new target. And carry says follow the target. So in this case, the bot should be following the part. So let's add a function so we can debug here. Tail my log and add an update. I just want to see the count of bots on a part. Yeah, code reuse in PICO-8, it's all copy and paste. It's no easy way to include. I've thought about, if I was working from one common directory, then I could always include from a shared utilities directory. I could have it in some subdirectory with all my different helpers. But the problem is, the way that I use PICO-8, if I do which P8, so I have an alias P8 that boots up PICO-8 with the root path set to the current directory. And so what that does is I'll hit P8, actually I'll go to a different directory. So this one up here is running the Moonbreak repo. So it's just in this project directory. So all I have is that. If I were to cd to my global PICO-8 directory, PICO-8 carts, and then run P8 from there, now it's going to spin up a new instance of PICO-8. And if I ls, then there's all kinds of projects. Lots of things that I've started and have never finished. This is going to be a Vampire Survivors Mario game that I would like to come back to at some point. But because I have so many experiments and I've got prototypes and templates, if I cd into my games directory, that's all things that have become larger games. That's a Git submodule and it's not checked out right now. I think same thing with Void Protocol is on the one that's on GitHub. It's a submodule. Disk wheel, I don't know if that one's, is it in here? Oops. Yeah, this was another eggplant game jam. Someone ran, someone did, or no, what was it? It was some game jam. Someone made Disk Wheel, It was somebody else from the eggplant community, and I'm blanking on their name right now. But they made a game that is essentially this and in some other framework. And then I tried to remake their game jam entry in PICO-8. And I got about this far with it. It's supposed to have saw blades flying at the character that you're spinning the wheel and dodging. But this is another project that I tinkered with for about a day and then set aside. Anyway, there's a lot of projects like that, and then little experiments that I did in here. Oh, one more that I'll show real quick. What was it called? Simple Adventure. Yeah. So this Simple Adventure project, this is a test of something I want to talk through in my next YouTube video. I want to walk through creating a simple game using all the basic built-in parts of PICO-8, giving variables or assigning variables to sprite numbers, and then using that to create some very straightforward logic. So in this case, if button's up, do that. See if tile is open chest, if flag get tile locked. Maybe doing this. I think this is a little more advanced than I want for the video that I'm going to work on. It's going to be aimed at beginners and maybe specifically kids who are getting into programming. It'll be very, very basic PICO-8. Just kind of how to use all of the tools that are in PICO-8 to add different states, to have a title screen, a game, a win screen, a lose screen, how to draw some simple sprites, how to use those sprites in a map, how to make a couple of sound effects. I don't know if I put those in here. Yeah, not yet. And then being able to interact with objects just on a map, basic map movement, not pixel-based movement. Collecting items, opening doors, collecting chests. So that's the next plan. The other one is, oh, everything just was lagging there. I usually set up this, yeah, or for kids or 40-something-year-olds who are getting into PICO-8. Right, Tudo. That's the two demographics. Something else that I typically use, I set up this async class to manage my coroutines. And then in main, in my update function, I always call async update. And then async update handles calling a coroutine. If the coroutine's dead, it'll get rid of it. And then another random tip, if you're ever using coroutines, wrap your co-resume in an assert, otherwise coroutines can fail silently. And then the way I use that, let's go to an async call. So for example, this is I'll add a comment here, bot exclamation. I always forget, is there an I exclaim? I think so. So for 9 frames, it sets an alert value of I out of 9. So it's increasing from 1 up to 9. So essentially it'll equal 1 out of 100. So 100%, or ultimately it gets 100%. Then it will wait 60 frames and then it counts down the same way. So it goes from 100% down to 0. And then what that does is it handles the animation logic for when you call a bot. So when I call it, a little exclamation mark slides up and then slides back down after 60 frames. So these loops might be a little hairy. Let's see. I use weights in a couple other places. Yeah, so when I'm throwing a bot, that's another place I use it. So when you hit the button to throw the bot, the player's arm kind of sticks out for a second. And that's using another async call. It sets the player sprite to the throwing sprite, waits 5 frames, and then sets the player sprite back to nil. then I think elsewhere here, I deal with the sprite in an animation function. So that way I don't need to have animation loops and other logic on the side. I can make an async call and then use my little wait helper here to tell it how long to wait and do different things at different intervals. I've used something like this for a tutorial in the Void Protocol game jam entry. Void Protocol has, it walks you through a series of things, just getting you used to how the game works. The game ended up being very short because in PICO-8 I used a ton of my available tokens building the tutorial. I'm really happy with the way the tutorial came out, but yeah, I didn't get to build much of a game because of how many tokens that tutorial and animation logic ate up. That was before I really learned how to use the environment variables and do more object-oriented things in PICO-8. So the more tricks you learn, the more juice you can squeeze out of PICO-8. But because my last few videos have been a little more advanced, and because the work that I'm doing now is a little more advanced and probably intimidating for beginners with PICO-8, I want to go back and make some videos that show what you can make with more simple features of PICO-8. Tudo on YouTube asked, does the async call interfere with the input, or you can't move while throwing? It doesn't affect the input at all. It just changes the sprite. And so you barely even notice it as you're running around. The player's technically standing still for 5 frames, or at least the sprite looks like it's standing still for 5 frames. But if you're moving around, you can't really tell. And then Broquaint on Twitch asked, would you consider doing multi-cart if you hit the token limit? For a long time, I didn't want to do multi-cart. I think I'm a lot more open to it now. And the game that made me like it, I think it's called Freezing Nights. Yeah. So Freezing Nights, and you can tell something's it's multi-cart if, turn the sound off. You can tell it's multi-cart if you see a little disk loading in the top left. So let's start new game. Select your character. So there's the disk loading. So now we're switching to a different cart to go into the menu screen or the overworld map. And then select a level and the cart loads again. So they're using separate carts for the map and for the combat here. And I think that's a really good use of it. I always felt like the little disk loading would be distracting or it'd be a little too slow and it wouldn't be fun for players. But I think they've masked it really well. And I think technically when that disk load shows up, it doesn't clear the screen. So you might be able to show your own sort of interstitial loading screen, and then the disk would show over that loading screen, and then you could go back into whatever else you're trying to show. So yeah, long story short, I do want to play with multi-cart. I think I'm a little torn right now on whether I'm going to spend time in PICO-8 multi-cart, Picotron, or Godot after I finish up this project. I've also been looking at TypeScript-based game engines or frameworks lately, just to give myself an excuse to use more TypeScript outside of work, since I'm not doing much programming at work anymore. Go back to the project directory, PICO-8. That's something else that's available in this project is my toString and log functions. I use these a lot to log to an external file. Yeah, broke when you use Pixie.js, and you said it's TypeScript native now. I'll have to ask you more about that later, I think, because I think I've been looking at a lot of different things, just like plain TypeScript, like build my own simple engine and just do things directly into Canvas. There's Excalibur.js I've been looking at. I think this it's pretty lean. I think it's all native TypeScript also. I think the problem I found with this is it's not very opinionated. I think I like more opinionated frameworks lately. And there's a handful of different ways to do everything in Excalibur. So I looked at it for a little while and I kind of fell off of it. And then you have things like Phaser. Impact.js was one that I used a long time ago. I think, yeah, technically you could still get it. Do they still sell it? Okay, no, it's given away free. Yeah, it's like 10 years old, the latest release. I gave a talk on Impact.js game development a long time ago, and I built the talk in Impact.js, and then I used a Super Nintendo controller, USB Super Nintendo controller, to advance the slides, and I had a little character that I had to like run through a level and run up to signs, and each sign was a slide. I think it was actually still on Heroku. No, yeah, well, the URL still exists, but the application's dead. We still have on our error page for work, we have this 8-bit therapy link, and it goes to a page that has an Impact.js game that I worked on with someone else at work. Button shoots. We had a, oh, maybe I don't have power up yet. We used to have Nerf wars at the office a lot, so the game has Nerf darts that you can throw once you get the fire flower power up. Yeah, Broken. There's just so many choices. I mean, it's the same even with outside of the JavaScript world. There's so many different ways that you can make games. PICO-8 keeps me kind of focused in, and even within PICO-8 there's a lot of opportunity to build pretty large complex games if you keep pushing the limits. Okay, so this part is not updating. I must not be spawning an actual part entity here. So I'm gonna go to my globals and turn on debug. Yeah, so there's no hitbox there. There should at least be a little dot at the center of the sprite, so I must not be spawning it. So sprite 6 should spawn a part. Is that number right? There's no way that's right. That's sprite 6. It's an empty tile. Should be sprite 37. So sprite 37 should spawn a part. There we go. So now it's at 0 bots. Now it gets 1 bot. Yeah. Okay, so the bots can be taken away and added to a part. Now the part is invisible. Yeah, you can stop at any point in debug. So you could clear the screen, you could test different things. I can check the type of my global variable. It's a table. Sometimes I do this if I just want to do quick math, or I want to get the result of something. You can stop at any point. I think that's more what you're talking about. So I could put a stop right here. It's kind of like a debug statement. So I ran the cartridge, it stopped immediately. I don't know if I'm in this scope. So question mark is the shorthand for print. So I can say print number of bots. Bots is nil. Yeah, I don't know if it retains scope. I think I'm back in the global environment right now. Yeah, so there's one part spawned. So if I get the first object, so I'm counting the first object dot bots and it's 0. So from the global scope, I'm looking at my part class, the objects, which are a table that I assign everything to for each class. So part objects, getting the first one, and checking the count of the bots table. So I could resume, we're probably not going to see anything. Yeah, it pretty much stopped again instantly. So instead, I could say if number of bots is greater than 0, stop. So now, so now I can throw that, it stops, and then I could print the same thing. And now we have one bot, and then I could resume. But again, because this is happening in our update loop, it's going to stop again immediately. So I'll resume that. If you hit escape, it's the same as stopping somewhere. So I could inspect those things again, and then I could type resume, and I just continue the game where I left off. But I like to set up some debug tools so that I can log to an external file. And in PICO-8, you don't need all this setup. I have a toString function that replaces the default toString, and then it will give me string representations of tables and other things here that need special treatment. And then log just says print using my toString to whatever log file I might have defined, or to the file called log, and then print h takes an overwrite so you can tell it whether or not to wipe out the log file every time it starts. So usually what I'll do in main, I'll put log initializing and then clear. So now if I run the game, I cat my log file, it's got one line, it's just initializing. So that way on each run, I wipe the log out. Okay, so part, extend carryable. I should not need that because I'm not logging now. I do need the draw. I think we said that was 37 at x and y, -4, -7. So I'm subtracting these values because I use the bottom center of the sprite as the x and y positions. So now I'm drawing that part. And then supply was the carryable. And the only two states for supply right now are idle and carry, and I think those should be the states for our carryable objects instead. So go to carryable, and we'll add states. So we have the can carry boolean, and then we have states of idle and carry. And then if that pulling that out worked. I should still be able to carry supply. That is working. And then, okay, so it crashed. If bots is greater than bots required. So a carryable object needs to have bots required. And I think 1 was my default. Yeah, so on supply it's 1, but then a part, I want you to have 6 bots. But I'm realizing that's something that I'm gonna have to communicate somehow. So that might be instructions. So 1 bot can carry supply, but you're gonna need 6 bots. So it's taking it to the wrong place, but it carried it, so that's cool. Yeah, so this is the part that needs to change. So right now, if its bots are greater than the bots required and it doesn't have a target, then it's going to find a target. And so right now, the target is collector objects 1. So in this case, it's this little supply collector. But we don't always want it to go to the supply collector. We want it to find a target. So we'll say whatever class you're in, find your target. Maybe we'll have that return a target. Target equals find target, and then path equals find path to target. So if you don't have a target, find your target, and then find the path to the target. And then we'll say find target by default is a no op. So I have this defined in globals. Yeah. So underscore NOOP is just an empty function. And I use that as a placeholder in parent classes. So every carryable needs to define its own find target. So we'll go back to supply. Find target equals function. And for now, we wanted this to return. So this needs to be smarter. Right now, a carryable or a supply should still get carried to the collector. So that's good. And then need to go to part to find it there as well. And then we don't have a target yet here. I think I want to define targets on the ship. So the part should get carried. Let me move this stuff around. Okay, I was playing with paths earlier. Let's get rid of that. This is my little ship representation. So wherever I put this, it's going to spawn the ship. Yeah, so that way we've got stuff closer together. So that works. Right now, we need more bots. Then it breaks because there's no target yet. For now, let's just say the target is ship. Did I make this a single? No, it extends. So ship.objects, get the first one. Lua is 1 based indexing, so that's the first ship in the spawned ship objects. So we're going to return that. So now if we have 6 bots, ooh, it's working, kind of. It's trying to path find. Oh, I think it's because this is solid. it's trying to pathfind through itself. So I need to fix that. No, still not. Why is that? So CPU is just hammered right now. It's trying to find a path to the ship. Oh, it's because the ship is solid. So the Pathfinder is choking because it can't find a way to get to the ship's origin without going through a collision tile. I want the ship to have collision so that I can walk around it like this. Yeah, the CPU graph is just Control P. That's part of PICO-8. There's a few stat variables that you can reference also. I think that's a visualization of things that you can get using stat. Clipboard, here we go, yeah. Yeah, so stat 0 is memory usage, stat 1 is CPU. You get clipboard contents, parameter string, current frame, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, if you want a quick representation, as soon as, I can't really point at the same time here, but as soon as that middle number reaches 1, then you're at 100% CPU usage and your frames will start dropping. So if I grab all these and do that same thing, we see it goes up over, way over 1. All right, thanks for stopping in, Tudo. Yeah, broken. You can save yourself a little bit of trouble. If you don't need the detail, you can just hit Control P and get a quick status. Okay, so pathfinding in solid objects. I had a plan at the start of this project to implement bit fields for collision detection. I'm debating if I want to go down that route right now. Thanks for stopping in, Broquaint. I'll catch you later. I had a plan at the start of this project to implement bit fields and then be able to, similar to how I think Unity and Godot both do it, is you can define like a collision mask. So you say, what layers does this entity exist on? What layers does it collide with? I'm trying to think if there's a simpler implementation that I can run with right now, just so that I don't need to think through that bit masking. Maybe it wouldn't be that hard. So on an entity, the other thought that I just had is right now my collision detection only looks at flag 0. And none of these are actually flag 0. I have some other logic that takes the hitbox of an entity that I've set as solid and it makes the tiles beneath it flagged as collision tiles for the Pathfinder. Maybe I add a second flag that is a second flag separate from collision that is blocking pathfinding. And then I can have some things block pathfinding and some not. But that would mean that some objects are going to clip through buildings. That might be okay. So let's say I want to set this on all these. So all my ground tiles have flag 1 now. So if I go to my, where did I put it? I think I gave it its own file. Yeah, auto tile. And there's an fget in here somewhere. Oh no, not auto tile. A star pathfinding, which is in helpers. This should have an fget. Yeah, and it's flag solid. So not solid. I want flags block path. So now I'll check against flag block path. So now it's finding the path there fine. It's going to go to the origin and it's going to drop it. The bots are still technically carrying that object because they don't have an on path end or on follow path stop, or I forget what I called it. Supply has it on follow stop. So this is if something is following another entity and it reaches the point that it should be at, then this is what it does. Let's move this to carryable. The bot should go idle, and then it should follow the player, and then the carryable's bots should be emptied. I think that's what I want, and then I just need to go back to supply. And supply still needs this, but now it needs to call carryable dot on follow stop and pass in itself, and then it does the target collection. So let's try that again. So this should still work. So it should be able to bring this over to the collector and capture it. That gives me some more bots. The bot happened to land on that part, so it flew straight over to it. I need a few more bots. Yeah, okay. And then so the bots dropped it off and then came back. Okay, so that's a start, but I actually want the bots to go to this position. So let's see, what can we do there? Let's go to the ship. Let's just define, we're gonna have to define it based off of the ship's location. So I think it needs to happen on init part positions. Let's say, call this cockpit. I don't need quotes there. What is the position of that? Maybe just 2 values here. So it's just gonna ballpark x plus 12, y minus 8, I think. I want to set this as a target. A target needs to have an X and a Y value. I think a target is also going to need a hitbox, but we'll test this. So now we're not doing ship objects. We're going to say local ship equals, call it target ship just for clarity. Local target ship equals ship objects first. And then we want to return target ship dot part positions dot cockpit right now. Eventually I think I'm going to subclass part and have the 3 separate parts with all of their information. And let's say, I think I have the carry speed based off of speed. Let's speed that up for testing. And actually just make this need 1 bot. Maybe that's not right. I think the speed might be hard coded. Carry, elevation speed, yeah, 0.1. Yeah, that's the only place. So we'll give carryable objects a carry speed, and that was 0.1 by default. But now in our part, we can go back here, we can change the carry speed to something a lot higher. It just instantly goes there. Okay, so our position's a little bit off, but it carried it there fine. Oh, actually, I just realized, did the bot retain that carry speed? No, okay, it comes back slowly. Okay, so we are, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 pixels off on the X, and we went way too far up on the Y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our ship position. We need to go forward 4 more, and we went too far up. We only need to go down 2. Yeah. I want to tweak the design of that part. It was a simple, quick sketch. It's interesting. I think the part is technically drawing behind the ship there. So the dotted line of the ship is rendering behind. I'll have to change the ship rendering based off of the parts that are added. Let's see, something else I want to test real quick. So we're just in this one little area. The ship is there. I'm going to erase the player from here, and I'm going to erase the ship part. I want to make this a much longer path and make sure my pathfinding would work here. And then we're going to put the player here and the ship part. Ooh, it's painful. It also seems to completely disregard the map tiles. But there should be a path. Just double check. Yeah, it finds the path for that fine. I don't have diagonals in my pathfinding right now because I was dealing with a lot of collision issues, but now I'm kind of wondering if I should bring it back. I think I disable map collision on the bots now when they're carrying something. So it would still pathfind, it might just clip some of the map corners. Yeah, so that bot has a path. Why couldn't this find a path? What's still different about supply? Y clip is for drawing, hitbox, shouldn't matter that much. Apart add a hitbox, shadows just for rendering, which I think I want all carryable objects to have a shadow. Let's see if I add a supply down here if it has the same problem. Yeah. So maybe there is an issue with maybe the map is too constrained. Doesn't have to go, this finds the path fine. I don't think any of those spots should be problematic. Let's look at pathfinding. I defined adjacent nodes here somewhere, yeah. So I had corners disabled. Corners do not help it. Turn up my max iterations. Nope. It's even worse. So it must not be finding a path and it's hitting the max iterations. Yeah, so if I lower the max iterations, it just kind of gives up and goes straight across. It's possible that it's too far away. I know this A-star implementation isn't the most performant right now, so I may have to revisit performance there. I think otherwise what I might do is, if the bots can't find a path, have a max iterations that's a little more performant. If the bots can't find a path, maybe there's like an error sound and they turn red, and then the actual map design could be a band-aid where, let's see, the ship is actually somewhere like up here. Maybe the part is actually pretty close to the ship. That's way too close than I mean for the actual example. Maybe it's something like this, and you have to have like a one-way block that you destroy before you can bring the part to the ship. Gonna test some other areas here. What if I put this here? Oh. Oh, I don't have a ship. Same problem. this works. So that's surprising. It's not that much further. Interesting. So right there, it's fine. Because it only ever moves in the direction of the ship. I wonder if I've probably got a bug. I bet that's what it is. It's a bug in the A-star algorithm that I've written that if it has to move away from its target, it's probably failing. I remember adding this sort and I wasn't positive if it was necessary. I bet it can be as easy as right there. Yeah. What's interesting is this is above the ship, so it has to move away on the y-axis. So it's maybe only when it has to move away on the x. So in that case, if I put it one square over, can it find a path? No, it still can't. But there it's fine. So right there it works. One square down it doesn't. This is one thing that I think could speed this up. I could probably use a single integer for x and y. I guess it might still need to be a table, but I could just have, I could have a parent and integer table. All of these calculations and everything, I was referencing an A-star implementation when I went through this, and I don't remember how they're supposed to work. But there's some sort of heuristic that essentially does these three calculations and then determines the next node to evaluate. I'm going to debug this later off stream because that's going to be boring to keep poking around in. Let's move our character back to an area that we know works for now. Add a ship part. Move carry speed back down. Yep, and so that works. I think I'm going to need to set that one not to make its elevation so low so the shadow comes down a little bit. Okay, so let's see if we did multiple parts. Cockpit is part extend. Oh, that's all the same stuff. So that's the sprite. That's the draw. Actually, I think I can do this on draw sprite. If I do that, that's fine. Hitbox is going to be the same on all of them. Maybe I'll ramp up the bots required. We'll see. And also carry speed. So the cockpit has a separate sprite. Let's go back to game and oh, 6 isn't right. I keep ending, I don't know where that sprite 6 came from. It's 37 for this, yeah. So that's 37. And the booster is going to be 55. And life support is 54. So there's my 3 parts. They're each going to have a different find target. Part can have a target index. And then instead of, so we'll get the ship and then target ship, part positions. Oh, actually, yeah, I named those. I think I'll just do an index. That'll be easier. Call it. I'll call it target key. They won't have a default, so each of these needs to define a target key. I didn't name these on the other ones, I don't think yet. Okay, nothing really changed here. So that's rendering a part. Part doesn't have a sprite, which is fine. We want to go to game. 37 should render a cockpit now. And now it's not checking it because we're checking specific classes in the bot targeting. Yeah, so targeting is checking for very specific classes. I think now I want to change this to can carry e.can carry or e.can attack. We'll have to add. Yeah, so now it'll find that. And we should be able to add this part in also. It's just going idle. It's still just a map tile. The cursor should be going behind it. So it's not spawning that. It's probably because I didn't add it here yet. I think it was 54 and 55. This was life support. And 55 was booster. Let's see if that's right. Yep. So now we have a booster entity spawned and it blows up because it doesn't have a target. Because on ship, we said we have the cockpit part position, but not the others. So we need to define those. life support, and booster. And let's just try going the opposite. Same Y value, I think, on all of these. And this might just be X. So now if we take the booster, it's going to very slowly make its way over there. Let's spawn some more bots. Get some more bots moving that. Okay, so it's taking those. I think I also want, so I have rendering layers. I want parts to be on layer 2. That's actually not exactly what I want, because now all the bots render behind them. Yeah. Not exactly what I want. Okay. I think I'm just gonna I'm gonna change the ship drawing to not draw those dotted line sections when you drop a part in. So that way the part is always visible. So those two parts are in. Life support should also just work now. Let's just put it up here. Hey, perfect. So now the bots assemble the ship, and then I need to add the parts. So let's go to onFollowStop. OnFollowStop is a function with an environment. Now onFollowStop, we want to call the carryable onFollowStop with the current entity. So do whatever was in our carryable, which is saying our part goes idle, it releases the bots, and then it sets its own bots to an empty table. And then we want to call I think we want target ship to be assigned to the entity. So then we can say onFollowStop target ship dot add part. This is a function that I already added earlier, and add the current part to the ship. So right now, I don't think it does a whole lot. So if the part hasn't already been added, then it adds the part, and then, oh, okay, yeah. So I did the code to adjust the hitbox when you add a part. Let's see if that works. I could have let it go there, but I want this to go faster. Okay, so now, nope. It's supposed to adjust the hitbox so that I can't walk through the front of the ship once it's there. Let's turn debugging back on. So the hitbox of the ship isn't changing. So count parts, if count, oh. So I'm counting if the cockpit class exists in the ship's parts, not an instance of the cockpit class. For P in all parts to if P dot class is equal to cockpit, then we extend our right hitbox. P.class is equal to booster, and we extend the left hitbox. See if that does it. No, hitbox still did not change. We're calling add part. Let's double check that we're calling it correctly. We are not. That should be a colon. So if you're not familiar, in Lua you can call a function with a colon or a period. The way that I had it before was a period, and so it was passing in the current environment, which is my part instance, as the first argument. So it's saying the part is the first argument, and then it's using the part to do all of these other things, which is nonsense and just does nothing of value. Instead, if I use a colon, that's the same as saying target ship add part target ship comma env, which is current instance. So I want to act on the ship, not on the part. So now the ship's hitbox is extended and I collide properly. Let's turn debug back off. Now I can't run into that. Let's move the booster. And I can't run into that. Perfect. So now the ship's a little more solid as it gets built up. While we're messing with the ship, let's look at not drawing those extra parts. So right now when I draw the ship, I'm drawing it all as two big sprites. I'm getting the first 4 here and then the 5 here. But I think maybe what I'll do is just draw these bits separately. This one wasn't a problem. We'll see actually. If two things exist on the exact same X and Y position, they could flicker in my implementation. So if I start to see flickering, I might need to adjust that. But for now, I'm going to tell it just to draw these 3 and then draw the dotted lines separately. So I actually want to draw sprite 50. So I need one here and I need one here. This is going to be sprite 49 at X. That value is still correct. So that actually should be what I want. I just don't want to draw 5 sprites wide. I just want 1 sprite. And then I'll draw sprite 50. That needs to be 8 pixels closer now, so it's -12, and it's only going to be 3 wide. So then we'll do the same thing here, but now we want to draw, should be 54, 53. Sprite 53. So it's 24 pixels from this, which is going to be +12. Should be the same Y value. So the ship looks identical. I'm realizing I'm going to need to do the same loop. This feels gross, but in the interest of not spending a lot of time thinking about it, I'm going to do it. And I'm only streaming for about 5 more minutes. Okay, so to start, it doesn't have any of the things. Life support, I'm not going to bother with because I said I probably won't need that just yet. So if it has a cockpit, equals true. has a booster, has booster equals true. Then when we draw, if has booster, draw the sprite. If has, nope, it's the negative. So if we don't have those things, draw the sprite. Nice. So now the dotted lines go away. Still need to mess with the elevation on these to make them look a little bit better. And I think the booster is going to need some, maybe a rect fill. I need a little more white around it. You can see the cursor kind of moves through these transparent pixels right there. So it needs just a little bit of work. And then there's the life support. Okay, now, if the ship has 3 parts, we win. That's the end. I don't want it to be abrupt. You collect the 3rd part. It should tell you something that you're ready to go. You should run to the ship, activate the ship, and then it would show you a little cutscene. But for a quick test, let's say if the size of parts is greater than or equal to 3, then scene load let's call it ending. So the ending scene, draw function. Clear the screen. We'll print in the center. Let's do, call it tprint. I have a function to print in a title font. So I want to print in the larger font. Tprint. It is. I basically want to take that. Clear. And we'll just say, you win. Let's see, I have a shadow print and a C print. Print C is print centered, print S, print shadow. I want both. Print SC will be shadow centered. So it takes a string, a Y position, a color, and a width of the font. I have default width here. I don't need that because I am going to do just this twice. Yeah, print SC will print centered shadow. So this should take string Y, string Y +2. +2 is where the shadow will sit. So this one should be Y +2. This should be string Y. We'll always make that 0 for now. This should be the current color, and this should be the width of the font that you're passing in. And then we'll let the center function take care of the default. So now this is print sc. Just call it once. Okay, all that. So that now I can go to the ending and change that to you win. Give ourselves a bunch of bots. Put all the pieces in. Oh, I did not include that file. It's drawing, but it's not drawing centered to the camera. Just noticing I messed up the color there. This is not drawing centered to the camera. So I haven't tried drawing somewhere else on my screen. Do I even care? Not for the ending, I don't think. I have a camera class. Camera reset is going to set x equal to 0, y equal to 0. Oh no, I think my camera is centered. So now on ending, when I initialize an ending function, I want to call camera reset. Camera's resetting. Where is my text? Yeah, that should set the in-game camera to 0, 0. Is my helper not working? My helper is not working, but it's displaying on the home page. What did I do wrong here? Print sc takes a y value. Print c string y color. String y color width. Yeah. Okay. And then in my helper. Oh. That is not right. It's just y. Close. This should be CLR. There we go. Okay, so that's working properly. Our reset must not be working properly. Am I calling it with a dot again? No, camera reset. So it should reset the camera to 64, 64. Oh. it's this. So I do reset it, and then I instantly move to the player position. This should actually be happening in the game scene. So in my game scene, I'll update the camera position on each frame. Close. X is 64. Print centered is looking at the camera X. I think this is wrong now. Because it's taking camera X plus an X value of 64. I think I just take that off. That breaks the centering there because the camera is technically at 0, 0 here. So if I set the camera to 64, 64 first, feels like the camera's position. Actually, no, the camera is fine. Now the helper is wrong again. If I take out all the camera calculations, it works on the title page. Ooh, I'm 10 minutes past my time. Yep, that's something else that I'll have to debug. I'm going to drop off. Thanks to everyone who checked out the stream and kept me motivated as I worked on this. Hoping to wrap it up probably within the next day or two, and then I'll have it up on itch.io, at least for this version. But in case you missed it at the beginning, I have a lot of other things that I've moved into the future version of the game. I'm just trying to wrap up a simple version that I can get out for this game jam so that I have something relatively complete. But thanks again for dropping in. I'll see you all later. Be back next Wednesday at 5:30 at least. I might stream on the weekend if I have time. See ya.